A police officer is sitting in his cruiser watching for speeding cars. He sees a car puttering along at 10 kilometers per hour and thinks, this car is almost as dangerous as a speeder, and pulls them over. As he walks up to the car, the little lady driving rolls down the window and asks, "Is there something wrong, officer?" "Well, yes," says the cop. "Why are you driving so slowly?" "I'm going the limit," says the little old lady, very confused. "The sign back there says 10. "You're mistaken, ma'am. That sign was to tell you that this is Route 10. The limit here is 60. "Oh, my," says the woman, very embarrassed. "I am so sorry. I will pay closer attention to the signs." At this point, the police officer notices the other passengers in the car. 3 more elderly women, all very pale and wide-eyed, clutching the armrests with white-knuckled hands. "Ma'am," he asks, "are your passengers all right? They look quite shaken." "Oh, they'll be fine, dear," says the elderly woman. "We just turned off of Route 250. A 4-engine passenger jet experiences engine trouble, and the pilot comes on the intercom saying, "Passengers, we apologize, but we have experienced an engine burnout. The plane can still fly on the remaining 3 engines, but will be delayed in our arrival by 2 hours. A few minutes later, the airplane shakes, and passengers see smoke coming out of another engine. Again, the intercom crackles to life. "This is your captain speaking. Apologies, but due to a second engine burnout, we'll be delayed by another 2 hours. The passengers are agitated. Suddenly, the 3rd engine catches fire. Again, the pilot comes on the intercom and says, "I know you're all scared, but this is a very advanced aircraft, and it can safely fly on only a single engine. But we will be delayed by yet another 2 hours. A man in business class raises his voice and shouts, "This is ridiculous! If one more engine goes, we'll be stuck up here all day." 3 men were passengers on an airplane. The first one opens the door as the plane is flying high over the ground and jumps out with his parachute, but not before throwing a knife out the door first. He screams on his way down, "I'm doing this for my country." The second man, not to be outdone by the first, throws a loaded pistol out of the door and jumps out while yelling, "I'm doing this for my country." The third man takes a hand grenade and throws it from the door, jumps out and exclaims, "I'm doing this for my country." The first man lands and finds a small girl crying. Curious, he goes up to her and asks, "What's wrong, little girl?" The girl replies, "A knife fell from the sky and cut my doll's head off." The second man lands and finds a small boy crying over a body. He goes up to the boy and asks, "Why are you crying, little boy?" The child sobs, "A gun fell from the sky and hit my friend on the head." The third man lands and finds a little boy laughing so hard he's having a hard time breathing. The man asks him, Are you okay?" The boy, between breaths, proclaims, "I farted and my neighbor's house blew up." An older man finally manages to leave the Soviet Union in the late 1980s to join his wife and son in the United States. As he heads through the Soviet border, a guard searches his luggage and pulls out a bust of Lenin. "What is this?" the guard asks. "Don't ask me what this is, ask me who this is," the man replies. "This is Vladimir Lenin, the great hero who fought for the rights of the people in our country. I'm bringing him with me to remind myself to continue that battle in America." The guard nods and lets him through. When the man arrives in America, the customs officer opens his luggage and finds the bust of Lenin. "What's this?" the officer asks. "Don't ask me what this is, ask me who this is," the man says. "This is Vladimir Lenin, the fiendish monster who destroyed my beautiful homeland. I'm bringing him with me to remind myself of the mistakes of the past." The officer nods and lets him through. The man then takes a taxi to the house where his wife and son are waiting for him. After the emotional reunion, the son spots the bust of Lenin and asks, "Papa, who is this?" The man smiles and replies, "My son, don't ask me who this is. Ask me what this is. This, my son, is 18 pounds of gold." A blind pilot walks into a plane waving his walking stick. The passengers all look at each other in disbelief. The flight attendant gets on the PA and says, "Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, the captain is legally blind, but rest assured, he is one of the best pilots in the world with over 6,000 successful flights." Next, the co-pilot makes his way to the plane, and he is also blind and uses his walking stick to make it to the cabin. The flight attendant gets on the PA and says, "Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, the co-pilot is also blind, but rest assured, he is the second best pilot in the world with over 5,000 successful flights." At this point, the plane begins to take off from the runway. As it gains speed, the passengers grow tenser. The plane keeps accelerating more and more, and as it approaches the end of the runway, it still hasn't left the ground. The plane is approaching the end of the runway at high speed, and the passengers scream, "Oh my God, we're all going to die!" Suddenly, the plane takes off and begins its ascent. The pilot turns to the co-pilot and says, "The day they stop screaming, we're screwed." Two guys left the bar after a long night of drinking, jumped in the car, and started it up. After a couple of minutes, an old man appeared in the passenger window and tapped lightly. The passenger screamed, "Look at the window! There's an old ghost's face there!" The driver sped up, but the old man's face stayed in the window. The passenger rolled his window down part way and, scared out of his wits, said, "What do you want?" The old man softly replied, "You got any tobacco?" The passenger handed the old man a cigarette and yelled, "Step on it," to the driver, rolling up the window in terror. A few minutes later, they calmed down and started laughing again. The driver said, "I don't know what happened, but don't worry, we're doing 80 now." All of a sudden, there was a light tapping on the window, and the old man reappeared. "There he is again," the passenger yelled. He rolled down the window and shakily said, "Yes? Do you have a light?" The old man quietly asked. The passenger threw a lighter out the window, saying, "Step on it." They were flooring it and going about 100 miles an hour, trying to forget what they had just seen and heard, when all of a sudden there came some more tapping. "Oh my God, he's back!" The passenger rolled down the window and screamed in stark terror. "What now?" The old man gently replied, "You want some help getting out of the mud?" Three friends, a turtle, a mole, and a bear, are drafted into the army, but none of them want to go, so they each need to provide medical proof why they can't join. "It's easy for me," says the turtle. "I'm slow." He enters the examination room, and when he comes out, he happily tells his friends that he is officially too slow to join. "Well," says the mole, "I'm literally blind. How could they possibly want me?" He goes in for his exam, and just a few minutes later comes out and hugs his friends, relieved that they don't need a blind mole in the army. "All right, guys," says the bear, terrified. "Let's face it, I'm one of the biggest and most dangerous animals. I'm the perfect soldier." The turtle thinks for a moment, then says slowly, "I have an idea. The most dangerous part of you is your teeth. Without your teeth, you're not really dangerous. So if we just smash your teeth, they won't want you." Reluctantly, the bear agrees, and the three friends work together to smash his teeth. The bear enters the examination room, and after 10 minutes, he comes out with his head hanging low and a sad face. "So, do you have to join the army?" asks the turtle cautiously. The bear mumbles, "No, I'm too fat." A policeman was interrogating three rookie detectives and decided to test their skills at identifying suspects. He shows the first guy a picture for 5 seconds and then hides it. "This is your suspect. How would you recognize him?" asks the policeman. The first guy immediately responds, "That's easy. We'll catch him fast because he only has one eye." The policeman shakes his head and says, "Well, that's because the picture I showed is of his side profile." A bit embarrassed, the first guy sits back, and the policeman shows the picture to the second guy for 5 seconds, asking, "This is your suspect. How would you recognize him?" The second guy, smiling confidently, replies, "Ha! He'd be easy to catch because he only has one ear." The policeman is now visibly frustrated. "What's wrong with you two? Of course there's only one eye and one ear because it's a side profile. Are these the best answers you can come up with?" Feeling exasperated, he shows the picture to the third guy and says, "This is your suspect. How would you recognize him? Think before you give me another ridiculous answer." The third guy looks at the picture carefully for a moment and then responds, "The suspect wears contact lenses." The policeman is surprised and asks, "Wait a second. I don't even know if he wears contact lenses. Let me check his file. The policeman goes to his office, checks the suspect's file, and comes back grinning. Unbelievable! You're right! The suspect does wear contact lenses. How did you know? The third guy smiles and says, It's simple. He can't wear regular glasses because he only has one eye and one ear. A local business put up a sign in the window that read, Help wanted. Must be able to type, must be good with a computer, and must be bilingual. We are an equal opportunity employer. A short time later, a dog trotted up to the window, saw the sign, and went inside. The dog wagged its tail at the receptionist, then walked over to the sign, sniffed it, and whined. The receptionist, a bit surprised, got the office manager. The manager walked in, completely taken aback by the dog, but the dog looked determined, so the manager led him into the office. The dog jumped up onto the chair and stared at the manager, who said, I'm sorry, but I can't hire you. The sign says you have to be able to type. The dog jumped down, went to the typewriter, and typed out a perfect letter. He took the page and trotted over to the manager, handing it to him, then jumped back onto the chair. The manager was stunned. Okay, well, the sign also says you have to be good with a computer, the manager said. The dog jumped down again, walked over to the computer, and quickly demonstrated his expertise, navigating through programs, creating a spreadsheet, and even pulling up a database. He presented them to the manager with a proud wag of his tail. By now, the manager was speechless. He looked at the dog, thoroughly impressed, but said, I still can't give you the job. The sign also says you have to be bilingual. The dog stared back at him, then looked at the equal opportunity employer part of the sign. He then turned to the manager, looked him straight in the face, and said, Meow. A lost dog wanders into a jungle, and a lion spots him from a distance. The lion, eyeing the unfamiliar creature, thinks to himself, That guy looks tasty, never seen anything like him before. With that, the lion charges at the dog with a menacing roar. The dog, panicked, begins to flee, but then notices some bones nearby. A light bulb goes off in his head, and he yells out, that was some delicious lion meat. The lion immediately halts, shocked. Whoa, this dog's tougher than I thought. I better get out of here while I can. Up in the treetops, a monkey witnesses the whole scene and quickly realizes he could cash in on this situation. He scampers over to the lion and tells him the truth. The lion, now enraged, growls, Hop on my back! We're going to get him together! The lion and monkey charge back toward the dog. Seeing them coming, the dog starts to panic even more, but then has another brilliant idea. He looks up and shouts, Where the heck is that monkey? I told him to bring me another lion an hour ago! A man walks into a diner during a terrible blizzard, but he only has enough money for a cup of coffee. He's starving, having not eaten all day. At the counter, he notices another man sitting with a steaming bowl of chili in front of him, but the man isn't eating it. He's just staring at it. The first man, stomach growling, calls over, Are you going to eat that? The second man shakes his head. I've lost my appetite. Would you mind if I took it? The first man asks, eager to eat. Not at all, the second man replies, sliding the bowl over to him. Without hesitation, the first man digs in, savoring the warmth of the chili. But as he nears the bottom of the bowl, he discovers a hairy, scabby Band-Aid stuck to the bottom. Grossed out, he immediately vomits everything he just ate right back into the bowl. The second man watches the scene unfold and calmly says, Yep, that's about as far as I got into it, too. An American, an Englishman, a German, and a Japanese go golfing on their annual meetup. As they are playing, they hear a ringing sound. The American rushes to his golf bag and pulls out a mobile phone. He answers the phone, and when the conversation is done, he explains to his friends, My company needs to be in touch with me all the time, so I carry this fancy phone around with me. The other golfers are mildly interested. As they continue playing, another ringing sound is heard. The Englishman puts his thumb to his ear and his last finger on his mouth, and also has a conversation. When he is done, he says, My company also needs to be in touch with me, so they installed a speaker on my thumb and a microphone on my last finger. The antenna is in my hat. The other golfers nod in approval at his technology. Later in the day, yet another ringing sound is heard. The German tilts his head and starts talking. When he is done, he says to the others, To keep in contact with my company, there's a speaker in my ear canal and a microphone in my tooth. The antenna is in my spine. The other golfers are impressed at such marvels of technology. As they are playing the last hole, a beeping sound is heard and the Japanese runs into the bushes. After he hasn't shown up for a while, the other golfers look for him and eventually find him squatting on the ground, pants down. "Oh, I'm sorry for intruding," says one of them. "Oh, it's okay. I'm just waiting for a fax." A man was stranded on a desert island for 10 years. One day, a beautiful girl swims to shore in a wetsuit. The man runs to greet her. "Am I ever happy to see you?" The girl says, "Hi. Looks like you've been here a long time. How long has it been since you've had a cigarette?" The man says, "It's been 10 years. With this information, the girl unzips a pocket on the arm of her wetsuit and gives the man a cigarette. The man says, "Thanks." The girl says, "So tell me, how long has it been since you had a drink?" The man replies, "It's been 10 years. The girl unzips a little longer zipper on her wetsuit, and out comes a flask of whiskey. The man takes a drink. The man is so happy. "Wow, thanks. You're a lifesaver." The girl begins to unzip the front of her wetsuit. She says seductively, "So tell me then, how long has it been since you played around?" Excitedly, the man says, "Oh my God! Don't tell me you've got a set of golf clubs in there too." It was an early morning at the airport as Mark helped his wife, Lisa, unload her luggage. She was heading to Spain for a 2-week company training session, and he was already dreading the loneliness at home. Before she headed to the departure gate, Lisa smiled at him and asked, "Anything special you'd like me to bring back for you?" Mark chuckled and, with a mischievous grin, teased, "How about a Spanish girl?" Lisa simply raised an eyebrow, smirked, and boarded her flight without another word. 2 weeks later. When Lisa landed back home, Mark was waiting eagerly at the arrivals gate. He greeted her with a warm hug and asked, "So, honey, how was the trip?" "Oh, it was wonderful. Spain is amazing," she replied with a playful glint in her eye. Mark grinned. "And what about my present?" Lisa tilted her head. "Present? What present?" Mark laughed. "You know, the one I asked for? My Spanish girl." Lisa sighed dramatically, then leaned in close and whispered, "Well, I did what I could. Now we'll just have to wait a few months to see if it's a boy or a girl." Married life in one picture, one person stressed, the other entertained. He was grinning from ear to ear as his wife moved forward, then backward, forward, then backward again, back and forth, in and out, in and out. It had been going on for 20 minutes. Her heart was pounding, her face was flushed, and she started to groan, soft at first, then louder. Finally, completely exhausted, she yelled, "Okay, I can't park the car. You do it." A passenger plane is flying through the Himalayas. Suddenly, a giant mountain appears. It does not seem like the plane is able to fly over the mountain. The pilot says, "Dear passengers, please stay calm. Due to exceeding our weight limit, our plane is not flying at our desired altitude. So in order to gain more altitude and fly over this mountain, we have to discard all the luggage." The passengers, though very unhappy about it, are more concerned about their safety. So after the luggage is discarded, the plane is able to fly over the mountain. Everybody claps. However, another mountain appears, thus one even higher than the last one. Pilot: "Dear passengers, we sadly have not reached our desired altitude yet. Thus, we have to throw out all your backpacks, laptops, and other loose objects in order to lose weight." Same with last time, the passengers do as told, so the plane gains altitude and flies over the mountain. Everybody claps. Finally, an unbelievably high mountain appears, easily topping the first two. Pilot: "Dear passengers, I am sad to inform you that we do not have the necessary altitude to pass this mountain. Furthermore, we have discarded nearly everything. But fear not, this plane is able to detach its floor to lose even more weight. However, you have to hold on to the handrails on the ceiling until the end of the flight. I am sorry, there is no other choice." The passengers do as told and grab onto the handrails while the floor is being detached. With that done, the plane passes the mountain. Pilot: We have now passed the last mountain. Thank you very much for your cooperation. Everybody claps. One day, a man decided to retire and booked himself on a Caribbean cruise. He was having the time of his life until, of course, the ship sank. He soon found himself stranded on a deserted island with no supplies, no company, just bananas and coconuts. For 4 months, he managed to survive, but he was getting desperate. One day, as he lay on the beach, the most beautiful woman he had ever seen rowed up to the shore. In disbelief, he asked, "Where did you come from? How did you get here?" She smiled and replied, "I rowed over from the other side of the island where I landed after my cruise ship sank." "That's amazing," he exclaimed. "You were lucky to have a rowboat wash up with you." She chuckled. "Oh, this boat? I made it myself using raw materials from the island. The oars are whittled from gum tree branches, the bottom is woven from palm tree branches, and the sides and stern are from an eucalyptus tree." The man, now wide-eyed, asked, "But where did you get the tools?" She grinned. "On the south side of the island, there's an unusual stratum of alluvial rock. I fired it in my kiln, melted it into ductile iron, and used it to make tools, which I then used to make the hardware." The man could hardly believe his ears. "Let's go to my place," she said. "I'll give you a tour." A short time later, after rowing over, the man stared in awe as they approached a long stone walkway leading up to a cabin and a treehouse. The woman expertly tied the boat with a hand-woven hemp rope, while the man was still in shock. "Please come in," she said, and after they entered the house, she casually offered, "Would you like a drink?" "No, no thank you," he blurted out. "I can't take another drop of coconut juice." She smiled and winked. "It's not coconut juice. I have a still. How would you like a tropical spritz?" He tried to hide his amazement as she served him. After a bit of conversation, the woman said, "I'm going to slip into something more comfortable. You can take a shower and shave if you'd like. There's a razor in the bathroom cabinet upstairs." Without questioning anything, the man went upstairs and found the razor. It was made from tortoise bone with 2 shells honed to a sharp edge and fastened inside a swivel mechanism. "Amazing," he thought. "What's next?" When he returned, she greeted him, wearing nothing but small flowers on vines strategically placed. She smelled faintly of gardenias. She beckoned him to sit down next to her. "Tell me," she asked suggestively. "We've both been alone here for months. You must have been lonely. When was the last time you played around?" The man's heart raced. He swallowed nervously, trying to process what she was saying. "You mean—" His eyes widened. "You've built a golf course too?" A woman is strolling through the park when she notices an incredibly attractive man sitting on a bench, reading a book and eating fruit from a Tupperware container. After a moment of hesitation, she gathers the courage to approach him. She walks over, takes a seat next to him, and turns to him nervously. "Sorry to interrupt, but I know this might sound forward, but I'd love to grab coffee with you sometime." The man smiles, clearly flattered, and responds, "Sure, but what makes you so sure we'd get along?" "Well," the woman starts, "a couple of things, actually. I noticed you're wearing an Iron Maiden t-shirt. Iron Maiden is my favorite band ever. When they went on their reunion tour in 1999, my parents took me to see them in Cleveland. I was 12, and it was the first concert I ever went to. I absolutely love them." The man's eyes widen. "No way. I saw them in Cleveland in '99, too. First concert I ever went to on my own. My best friend Jimmy Spitz and I told our parents we were sleeping over at each other's houses, snuck out, took a bus into the city, and saw them at the Plain Dealer Pavilion." Both of them are shocked. They've got so much in common. "That's crazy," says the woman. "But it gets even better. I saw you're reading Mark Twain. I majored in communications, and I wrote my thesis on Mark Twain and how he used satire to comment on the events of his time, comparing him to modern-day satirical news sources. He's my absolute favorite author." Now the man is truly stunned. "Wait a minute. I was an English major. I specialized in 19th century American literature. This is like my 4th or 5th time reading Tom Sawyer. I absolutely love Mark Twain." They both can't believe how many things they have in common. This is crazy. "Okay, last thing," the woman says, her eyes lighting up. I noticed you're eating a prune. Prunes are my absolute favorite fruit. When I was a kid, my grandfather lived on a farm with an orchard. He mostly grew apples and lemons, but he planted a couple of plum trees just for me and my sister because we love prunes so much. Every summer, we'd go up to visit him, harvest the plums, and he'd dry them. By Thanksgiving, he'd always have a batch saved just for us. They're my favorite fruit, and now you're eating one. This has to be fate. What do you say? The man puts down his fruit, looks at her, and smiles. It's a date. Joe and Bob had been friends for years, the kind of friends who could count on each other for anything. So when Joe needed help with his deck after work, Bob didn't hesitate to head straight to his place. As they walked through the front door, Bob was caught off guard by what he saw. Joe strode straight over to his wife, wrapped her in a warm hug, and whispered, "You look beautiful today. I missed you so much." She beamed, kissing him back. At dinner, Joe complimented every dish, savoring each bite like it was a 5-star meal. "Honey, this is absolutely delicious," he said, reaching for her hand. "I don't know what I'd do without you." He kissed her gently and told her once again how much he loved her. Bob couldn't help but stare. Later, as they worked on the deck, Bob finally spoke up. "Joe, I gotta say, I'm surprised. I mean, I've known you forever, but I've never seen you fuss over your wife like that." Joe smiled, tightening a screw. "I started doing it about 6 months ago. Our marriage was feeling stale, so I made an effort to show her more love every day. And you know what? It's completely transformed our relationship. We're happier than ever." Bob thought about that all the way home. When he stepped through his own front door, he decided to give it a try. He walked straight over to his wife, pulled her into a massive hug, kissed her deeply, and looked into her eyes. "I love you so much," he said earnestly. "I've missed you all day." His wife's face crumpled. She burst into tears. Bob panicked. "Honey, what's wrong?" Between sobs, she wailed, "This is the worst day of my life. First, little Billy fell off his bike and twisted his ankle. Then the washing machine broke and flooded the basement. And now you come home drunk." A woman, devastated by betrayal, found herself lost in despair. Her husband, the man she had devoted her youth to, cared for, supported, and loved, had left her for a younger woman. Heartbroken and uncertain of how to go on, she heard of a wise monk who lived high up in the mountains. It was said that he possessed great wisdom, guiding lost souls to inner peace. Desperate for answers, she embarked on the arduous journey. Days passed as she walked, climbed, and struggled through the rough terrain. At last she reached the peak where the old monk sat in quiet meditation. With tears in her eyes, she poured her heart out. "I dedicated my whole life to him. I sacrificed my best years for his happiness, and now he's gone. My life has been stolen from me, and I don't know how to move forward." The monk listened patiently, then reached into his robes and handed her a small cookie. "Eat this," he said. Confused but obedient, she took a bite. It was simple, yet oddly satisfying. She finished it quickly. "Was it delicious?" the monk asked. "Yes," she nodded. "Would you like another?" "Yes, please," she replied eagerly. The monk gazed into her eyes and said, "Do you see the problem now?" The woman furrowed her brows, pondering his words. She took a deep breath and slowly spoke. "I think I understand. Human nature is greedy. We always want more, something newer, better, different, but everything is impermanent. Nothing lasts forever. If we accept that, we won't suffer as much when things change." The monk shook his head. "No," he said calmly. "I mean, you're too fat. You should eat less." A man is sitting in his sports car at the traffic lights when a little girl on a bike asks him if he wants to race. "Sure," the man laughs. The light turns green and he floors the pedal. The car takes off like a shot and he leaves the little girl in the dust. A few seconds later, though, he sees something gaining on him in his mirror, *fast. Asterisk. He just barely catches a glimpse of the little girl on her bike as she shoots past him. "She must be going 80 miles per hour. He shouts and shifts into a higher gear, pushing the car even faster. He quickly blasts past her as if she were standing still. But again, just a few seconds later, she shoots past him, now doing over 100 miles an hour on her little bike. Going so fast, sparks and smoke are streaming from her training wheels. After another few seconds, he comes to a curve where he sees the little girl crashed in a heap on the side of the road. He pulls over and jumps out to see if she's okay. Miraculously, she's survived. So he asks, "Why did you go so fast?" Just as she falls unconscious, the little girl replies, "My streamers got caught on your mirror."